Everybody, sit straight, spine erect, chin away from your chest, eyes gently closed. Shift your eye gaze to the third eye, the center of the eyebrows, Jyotishmati, the light of awareness within. Take a deep breath and exhale. We'll begin today's session with the opening chant. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone for today's weekly Satsang. Today, we're going to continue our exploration on the Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action and self-empowering action. This is something that we could apply in all the situations that we are presented with, and how to act so that it results in the most exuberant and the joyful experience. So far, we've explored the definition of what is karma, the different types of karma, the sanchita karma, the karma that we accumulate over the lifetimes, prarabdha karma, the karma that we are set to run through in the current life manifestation, and then agami karma, the new karma that we accumulate based on the deeds. And at the same time, we also explored things about we are all, this entire universe is nothing but a constant matrix of action. But instead of making that be somewhat fatalistic or somewhat of a half-full situation that we are unhappily got stuck in this matrix field, the Karma Yoga, the path of selfless and self-empowering action, will help us to make the life of our own choosing. And that's the beauty of it, which is about the empowerment, so that we can we have the full power that we can nurture, we can grow to create the world of exuberance and joy and excellence for ourselves and the people around us. So what we're going to do today is building on the previous sessions. Today we're going to explore some of the tools and the techniques on the path of Karma Yoga that we can actually implement in our day-to-day life. So without much further ado, let me share my screen. Okay, the Karma Yoga, as we said, karma is not just about accepting the fate or whatever we have done in the past lives or this life, and we're just bearing the consequences of that. Karma is about taking control and resulting in joy and creating the destiny for our choosing. And one of the key insights that we started looking in the path of Karma Yoga is every action that we do, there are two choices that we can make. One is this action is in the expectation of happiness. And the second one is the action is an expression of happiness. And this is very beautifully conveyed, which is like by Sri Ramji and many other gurus. One is we always have to reflect on whenever we are setting out to do, number one, are we doing this because by doing this, do we expect some kind of an happiness? Or the second one is that we are doing this, we're performing this action because it's an expression of exuberance, expression of excellence, and it's an expression of the state of fullness and the being of the happiness. And whenever we are full and we are expressing the joy that within, and those actions are residue free, and they are sometimes referred to as, Patanjali referred to as dhyana jama karma. In other words, they are performed in that meditative inner peace and outer dynamism. So we are first established in the peace and the harmony, and then from there we are actually performing. And that is what we are aspiring to do. That is what we are aspiring to do. And we looked at one of the verses from Bhagavad Gita last time, which is Yogastha Kuru Karmani. And that is essentially, it's like first establish in the harmony, the inner peace, and then go set out to do. And most often, not often, what we've been conditioned to do in the life is, we're always looking for, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to get an A. So we defer our state of happiness to until some outcome results, whether it is, making money or, getting a grade, or even sometimes, just seeking a validation or approval from the people around us. And I think that those kinds of actions will always incur a residue. We are actually accumulating some kind of a karma from that. So those are called klesha jama. Klesha is misery, or klesha jama karma. So our entire goal is to start accumulating, or not start accumulating, but start being more of inner peace and outer dynamism. And there is a nice metaphor that in the Bhagavad Gita is full of metaphors about this. So one of the metaphors of what is the right way of expression of the happiness. Like, for example, the sloka goes something like this. Apuryamanam achalam pratishtam samudram apa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayama pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti nakamakami. 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 The actions that are not born out of any desires, the expectation of the happiness. And the metaphor here is, if you look at an ocean is full of joy and abundance. And because of its fullness and abundance, all the rivers are flowing into it, not because the ocean is lack of water, lack of joy, lack of abundance. Only when we are in a state of that fullness and the abundance, then the nature is flowing itself. The more water is actually going and reaching the ocean. Similarly, when we have a sense of abundance, the joy, then all the things, actually, the joy of, everything is going to come to you. Whatever you need, it's going to come to you. But when you start operating from a sense of lack, then that results in different kind of trade-offs and transactions. And the result of what you may come back may not be of your own liking. So this is a very, very good metaphor, which is like, we always need to feel the sense of joy, abundance, and sometimes this is also referred to as the prosperity mindset. When we have a sense of always, no matter what situation that we are in, if you feel more prosperous and the sense of abundance, and that's a state of being, then whatever you need, the nature is going to realign itself to flow to you. The results that you need, it's going to flow to you. And just like, so we just need to be like that ocean, express a sense of abundance. So what is that abundance? And it also basically says, like, when you have that sense of abundance and the love and the compassion, the nature also is going to respond to you that way, like reverse. And if you start expressing the lack is going to get back to you. So just like the ocean, we always need to cultivate and be in that state of abundance and the prosperity mindset. And that's how we need to set out to act as an expression of abundance and the happiness. Now, let's look at the next verse, which is like, once we are set out in that state of abundance, and when we are acting, the different situations require different type of skills, different skills. Not all actions are of the same. And we are dealing with Prakriti. Prakriti is nothing but a different amalgamation of gunas. Some sattva, which is sattvic, some rajas, some tamas. We have to conduct our actions. So this is where Bhagavad Gita says, Buddhi yukto jahatita, Buddhi yukto jatahita, ube sukrita dushkrute, ube sukrita dushkrute, tasmat yogaya yujyasva, yoga karmasu kaushalam, yoga Karmashu Kaushala. This is also another definition of yoga that we see being referred to very, very often. Yoga, Karmashu Kaushalam. Kaushalam is that skillness, is that excellence. Yoga is expressing that sense of skill, the highest skill and the excellence in the actions that you do. So what is that skillness? What is that excellence? Buddhi yukto, using the right intellect, Jahatita, which is transcending, ube, the duality of sukrita and dushkrita, which is like, is it a good action or a bad action? You're not constantly trying to employ this chatter of, is this the right action? Is this a good or bad or this stuff? Because you have developed that level of intuition where you were just able to transcend good, bad, and the kind of, kind of the chatter where we become more tentative. Because if you're constantly trying to analyze, if I do this, what's going to happen if I do this, that sense of analysis paralysis, that is not the right skillness, which is about being buddhi yukto with the right intuition, inner peace and harmony. When, if you actually notice, your tentativeness actually starts when you're not established with the clarity of the mind, that inner harmonious mind. When the mind is colored, and that's when we are engaging in kind of analysis paralysis, we become very tentative. What if I do this? What if I do this? What are the consequences? So we spend more time in analyzing, resulting in a paralysis. That is not the karmasha kaushalam. The kaushalam is actually a Sanskrit word, comes from the Sanskrit word of kusha, which is a grass, which is somewhat very it's very pointed, and the students in any ashram, when they join in a gurukul, the first task that I believe the guru actually sets out to do is to go fetch some cut grass, and in this kusha grass, and the English word cushion also came from that. So for that, if they are not completely centered in that equanimous mind, the harmonious mind, when they're cutting it, they can easily cut themselves or hurt themselves. So they have to be fully centered with the full presence of mind. And then that's when you're not actually getting into all these consequences or this analysis paralysis of sukrita dushkrita. So tasma yogaya yujasva. So that is when you're establishing that yoga, chitta vritti nirodha. And with that inner peace, you simply keep on going from the sense of fullness. And again, you don't have any sense of fear or abhinivesha, avidya, raga, dvesha, the Patanjali's, the 5 kleshas that we talked about. Because the moment you have those kleshas, then you're always doing this transactional ROI kind of an analysis. Just like, once you divide off all the kleshas, then your mind is reposed in that, the center of harmony. You're operating from the state of an expression of happiness and joy and abundance. And then you simply go set out to act. And this is what Krishna is trying to teach Arjuna, that we are all the skilled warriors that we all are, that we can cultivate this skill. And one of the other skill here is, when you are acting, you just need to be in that trikarana shuddhi, the authenticity and the integrity. Sometimes what happens is we try to put up a mask and we try to project a different image in we're trying to act to match to the situation. But when you are actually is representing yourself, who you are, that you don't have to do any posturing, then you are simply just being yourself. There is no extra burden. You're simply going and expressing your being with all the resources that you have. And this is something that we all need to remember. And this is something in our yoga practice, or when we are at work, you simply deploy the skills that you have. And this is what last week we covered about Mihala's flow theory. Always deploy the full resources that you have and stretch them to about 10 to 20% in the pursuit of action. Don't try to deploy the resources that you have based on the task at hand. Or based on the result that you're going to get. Oh, they're only paying this much. So why do I Why do I have to give my 100% or 120%? Just represent in every situation that you have with full authenticity, and try to get into the flow state, and with the skillness and the excellence that we represent. Buddhi yukto jahatiha, which is transcend or let go of this discrimination or the chatter. And then the right way of act, and this is something that is, it is an interesting skill that we all need to cultivate. And that is a recipe for even establishing more and more of the inner peace. So what the Bhagavan Krishna says, the right way to act is to be able to see action in inaction, and vice versa, seeing inaction in action. In other words, feeling a sense of weightlessness and non-doership. And this is what Bhagavan Krishna says. Karmanya karma, karmanya karma, yah pashet akarmanicha karmayaha. Karmanya akarma, one who could see inaction in action. Yah pashet akarmanicha karmayaha. In that state of inaction, that stillness, seeing that action. So how is that possible? So when we are actually trying to do some action, what is the one that is still, that is inaction, that is still? It is that inner self. It is that inner self. So when we are reposed in that self, and with that Purusha, with that divine, when we are acting, that is the right yoga, karma, kaushalam, because that is that inner peace, where you're always that inner peace, your constant anchor. And from there, you are exhibiting your outer dynamism. Karmanya akarma. And then the vice versa. Akarmanicha karmayaha. Akarmanicha karmayaha. So in that state of inaction, perhaps meditation. Meditation is that prashanta vahita samskara. But if you actually go see that is nothing but a dynamic flow of action. In fact, this entire universe is nothing but the constant dynamic flow of action in subatomic particle, or even the space or the void. That is nothing but the constant, dynamic quantum energy. It's always, doing that. Being aware of that, to be able to simultaneously experience that state of stillness and the state of action is the right skill. So buddhiman manushyeshu sayuktah krissa karma krita. Yutsa karma krita. So basically, whenever we are actually doing it, the yogis, the people who are in the harmonious mind, are able to, for them, action and inaction are one and the same. Action and inaction are one and the same. In fact, for them, my exec coach at Apple, he told me, for those accomplished people who are in that state of mind, the world operates like a perfectly slow motion. We all might be in the middle of real action, but for them, the world is like moving at such a slow frame per second. And it's that, they don't have anything. They always see that, state of equanimity. For them, it's almost like nothing but tatra pratya ekatanata dhyanam prashanta vahita samskarat. So this is the thing that we can actually cultivate. And the same thing, this state of action can also become our own identity. And this is sometimes, we actually see all of us have the quandary or the dilemma, which is how can we pursue exuberance in the world when we have so many responsibilities. We need to work, we have family, we have relationships, and we have responsibilities. While all of them present in a different kind of situations and different moods and different kind of emotions and responsibilities, ups and downs. While we are, while we are experiencing or expressing this kind of a worldly life, how can we still be yogis? How can we still be still? And those are the beings where they are in the world while we are there expressing themselves in every action with full exuberance in the flow state from the prosperity mindset like an ocean, yet they are detached. They're not worried about the outcomes. Mafaleshu kadachana. They're not being bonded by the responsibilities. They're not constantly trying to analyze between dishkrute, suskrute, is it profit making or loss making? That intellect is being developed, because for them, everything is the same. Everything is the same. I think, we only try to get into the state of profit and loss in a very myopic scale. So this is the right way of doing the world, where one can actually be in the world and doing all the things that we need to do. Yet we can be somewhat detached and be in that state of harmony, in the state of inner peace and harmony. And this is the skill where, when there is a lot of dynamic action that's happening, karmanya akarma pashet, pashet, ability to be connected to that stillness while we are actually doing it. So if we are not connected to that harmony, we first have to establish there. Yogastha kurkarmani. Our most immediate job is to be connected to the stillness, that inner peace, and then go back and do the action. But don't ever react. Don't ever react. When we are thinking, acting, if you're not connected to the inner peace, that is nothing but a reaction or a compulsive tendency. It's a reaction based on stuck by either your previous karma or the conditionings or whatever happened immediately. And we are simply responding to the situation. That's not a conscious, harmonious action. The most important thing is, whenever we are doing it, just be aware of ourselves and say, is this the most exuberant and the harmonious state of being? Only then act. Otherwise, take a time off. First, doing whatever the practices that we know, whatever the tools that we have. It doesn't have to be just pranayama or yoga or anything. Whatever allows you to be just reposed yourself, to bring that clarity. Could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be any one of the painting, any one of the tools that you have. First, be in that, connect to that stillness, karma, and then go act. And then go act. So the real secret here is always that, as Bhagavad Gita last shloka said, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Pardo Danurdaraha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutihi Dhruva Matir Mama. The Krishna is nothing but that inner, tranquil, harmonious mind. Wherever there is an inner peace, and in that inner peace, that outer dynamism, that skilled warrior and the skilled Arjuna that exists. And that's where the victory is there. And that's when it becomes a dhyana jama karma. Then it is a meditative thing. Then you can actually create the destiny and the world of your choosing. So I know we covered a bunch of concepts. Before we actually move on to the other things, are there any questions, comments, thoughts, reflections?
It's explained pretty clearly. Again, not reacting is the challenge in life. So, I mean, it's a constant work, definitely. Yeah, but reminding ourselves is important.
I think, I think everything that we are doing, I think if we can perform every word, every action, the trikarana, act from a state of conscious. Let it be, even when we are doing something not so great activity, be conscious about it. Not as a subconsciously, we're just giving into it. And, sometimes I say this, for example, if I go for some kind of an indulgence and I tell them, which is like, okay, I'm doing this deliberately, not because of anybody's influence. I basically am surrendering to doing this intelligence with my full thing. So I'm responsible for all the consequences. I'm here to surrender myself to this situation. And I'm not going to make anybody that this something is like, no. I'm having to do this because of X, Y, Z. No. It's like, I am actually doing this intentionally. So that is, trying to be more conscious. But of course, as we start cultivating, as we start doing it, then, we will purify ourselves, to make sure that every action that you do will only be the right one, And that is, cultivate more sattva and so on and so forth. But before getting there, all the actions, regardless of the gunas, sattva, raja, tamas, make it deliberate, make it conscious, and do it with full awareness. And whenever it is actually resulting in something, it's just like, oh, it's because I'm trying to get to an outcome, or is it because I'm trying to a sense of lack, there is some kind of a misery and this stuff. Even when there is some kind of a thing that's going on, be aware of it and be, make a little bit detachment, be aware of it, consciousness, and then just go do through it. But, don't let, because once you do this consciously, it doesn't come back and, create a sense of guilt. And the guilt is actually the one that debilitates people. Guilt debilitates people. So our entire job is to just like, just accept it. At that moment, we simply went through it. And then, but that situation is no longer there. And then we just, move on to the next thing. The next, few words is actually.
I think in the name of multitasking, we are neither here nor there. Kind of like it's like, okay, so that that actually stops you from being present. That's what I feel.
True.
Yeah.
And the thing is multitasking is an interesting. In fact, this afternoon we had a fantastic discussion with Rajesh and a couple of other entrepreneurs who were kind of extrapolating what's happening in the world. And one of the persons actually shared some interesting. I'm not a neurologist or a scientist or anything, but he shared an interesting fact. Apparently, the human evolution is evolving such that there is one extra fold that is now manifested in the human cerebral space. That extra fold results in a multiplication capability in terms of what we can actually do. Apparently, there is an extra fold that now manifested. So the kids that are born to us, they have this extra superhuman capability that is of some multiple X of what we are able to do. And they apparently take certain long thing, but now they've actually discovered that they have one extra fold. That extra fold is like several X's of mental capability. So that way they can actually
the newer
set out
generation has mutated kind of a thing. So
exactly. Right. So now but
I see my daughter struggle with attention, like not concentration. So I don't know if they can really. I mean, they say they can multitask, but having she uses the Pomodoro method and all those things, like app. But still, giving 100% attention is a struggle. Like until it comes and hits her neck, kind of like tomorrow it is the deadline. Then it goes on full gear and be up until 2:00 and finish it, kind of a thing.
That's actually precisely. I think this is what we were discussing this afternoon, which is that we are unable to take control of our mental capability right now, what we have. And because of the amount of distractions that are presented in front of us. So we are unable to handle this level of capacity. Now, if there is an additional extra fold, what would it do? So which is like, then I was actually telling everybody, it is like the Bhasmasura, which is like, if you're given extra powers, do you actually go use it to go
your own destruction?
Right, do you so now we see this is like, even for us with the mental capability that we have, and Sadhguru also talks about this, which is like, we are unable to handle the super mind, the cerebral power that we have. And then we created all these gadgets and tools, and then this is nothing but the cerebral capacity of what the human mental ability is the result of all the things. But is that creating the more joyful experience for one and the people around? No, we are actually going the other way. We are not able to even focus on doing a small, simple thing. Lack of attention, lack of concentration, because there is like zoom, 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 constant stimulation. And then to respond to that stimulation, we are inventing more and more things. So now is the time. Now is the time to actually go strengthen the self and the character muscle. That foundation needs to be, it's almost like the operating system. We all kind of ignored the operating system strengthening. We started building applications on top of it. And then now everybody is paying price for it. So what we need to do is we first need to go build this operating system. That's what I was sharing with him. It's like, okay, this youth excellence is the new operating system that we are going to upgrade everybody with. And then from there, we can take advantage of the mental capability, even with the number of folds that we have or an extra fold that we have, so that we can actually, build a better harmonious world. But right now, every problem setting that we see is nothing but an expression of lack of capability to handle the mental power that we have.
Yeah, it's like adding one more, like if you're already juggling, you add one more ball to the whole thing. Yeah, it's
I mean, this is like, we are, our generation is blessed with some of the, I mean, as part of from chimpanzees to the others, we've evolved significantly. I mean, the amount of things that we are doing from, going to the space and exploration, so on and so forth, but and the technology and this and this stuff. But number one, if you have to measure, but are we being more joyful species right now? No, we probably is becoming more and more of a bus pass for us, both within and then the people around us. So now we just have to go back and strengthen our core and operating system so that we have the opportunity. I mean, this is very doable. It's very doable, very time bound, and I think we just need to kind of navigate and get everybody and do that. So for this, the first thing that what Karma Yoga actually teaches, who is the actual doer? We need to let go of the sense of a doership. So this one, what there is, so the way to act is, there is a secret that gets revealed here. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimuddatma kartam iti manyate. The second line is very important. Because of ahankara, ahamkarta iti, because all of us, the humans believe that, all the actions that are being performed, I did this, I accomplished this, I am doing this, I built a company, I am doing this, there's all the sense of doership. All it says is, we all believe that, we have this sense of I, that is ahankara. But the real action, how is this action, the karma, who is actually doing it? Who is the agent of action, the real agent of action? It's the prakriteha kriyamanani. It's the nature, it's the prakriti that is the real agent of action. It's based on the gunai karmani sarvashaha. It's based on the gunas and the qualities, and it's based on the conditioning. The prakriti is actually doing everything. But it's because of this mind and ego and intellect, it kind of boosts everybody's ego. It's just like, I'm the CEO of this and this stuff. I made this and this stuff. You know what I did? I built this and this stuff, right? Sometimes, when I observe myself, the ahankara kind of, exhibits itself in so many different forms. Ahankara vimudvatma. So that viveka, it's like, realizing that you're not the actual doer. I mean, there is a nice metaphor. Like, for example, when you're driving a vehicle, when we are actually driving the vehicle, are we really doing everything? Are we really pushing the vehicle? Are we the engine or the energy or any other stuff? No, is that energy, the prakriti and the nature, the energy is actually is responsible for all the locomotive and the motion. All we are doing is just simply steering it. Steering it. The energy is nothing but whatever is happening in the world is the result of the energy. It is the prakriti that is actually doing everything. But it gives an illusion that we are actually doing it. And the real thing is all our responsibility is so tiny, which is like, if we have the ability, the skillness, yoga, karma, shikha, just create the right environment to allow the action to happen, purify yourself so that the right action is going to happen through the nature. Through the nature. Our only job is to purify itself to that, allow it to happen. Allow it to happen. But the moment it is like, I'm the person that is actually doing it, then in many ways, you will all be disciplined. So that sense of doership needs to go away. But at the same time, we need to build that skill to steer in the right direction, prachodaya, to steer in the right direction. And that comes from the purification, abhyasa vairagya abhyam, to actually get to that purification of inner peace. How to get your mind into a tranquil state so that the right actions are going to express through you. Right actions are expressed through you by the nature. And this is what Sadhguru sometimes calls as Ishanga. Ishanga is, as you start purifying yourself, the creator and the nature chooses you as one of the limbs. Isha's Anga. So our job is to essentially purify ourselves to become that zero of all the chatter, ego, mind, and the conditioning, so that the Isha starts expressing through yourself. That's when the tadadrastu swarupe avasthanam. So all your actions and thoughts and words will express that divinity. And it kind of continues. And it's sometimes referred to as art of following. Art of following. Prakutyaiva cha karmani kriyamanani sarvashaha yah pashyati tadatmanam akartam sapashyati. Which is like, if you actually really go investigate this agent of action and the roles of the Purusha or the self within, that it's almost like the solar system. If you look at the solar system, just the mere presence of the sun is not doing anything. It's just the presence of it, but emitting this constant light and the radiance. And that the light and the radiance that is emitted is the source of all the existence. Everything, every being and everything that exhibits on this planet, in the solar system, is from that sun. But the sun, what is the sun doing? It's nothing, just by there, just being itself, and then as exhibiting the radiance. And then the prakriti iva cha karmani, then the nature is acting. Nature is acting around us. So when we are here, let that be reposed in that Purusha within, like the sun. And then let it be aware of their presence. Let their presence be visible. That means, we have to purify the chittavarti nirodha so that the prakriti chooses you to act and results in the action that are nothing but the divine. It's nothing but the divine. And this is where Patanjali also says, Prayatna Shaitilya Ananda Samapatibhyam. As we start doing certain things, initially it feels like, for example, even when you're doing an asana, initially it feels like we are putting a lot of effort to get to somewhere. But eventually, the real asana is when asana becomes you. That's the right expression. When the asana becomes you is when that state of effortlessness, then there is no real, you'll be surprised, and there is a sense of witness. Oh, how did this expression result? But for that, initially it feels like, you are actually doing the doership. But as we are purifying ourselves and we are pursuing that yoga karma kausalam, then that shaitilya, the sense of stillness. So we start seeing karmani akarmaha, karmaya akarmaha. You start seeing that effort, but you also experience the saitya, the stillness in the action. And that's when Ananta Samapattidyam, then the asana expresses itself through you. The Prakriti expresses itself through you as an asana. The asana becomes you. You don't become the asana, asana becomes you. So there is no sense of doership. And for that, we just need to allow it to happen. It's the art of allowing. This is the art of allowing. So recognize that the Prakriti is the agent, and then the Prakriti is acting only because the nature is acting, only because of the power and the source of the Purusha within. But the source is only a witness. All it's doing is witness, but constantly emitting that light and the Chaitanya. In between the Prakriti and the self is this mind drama, the filter. Our only job is to purify this filter, purify the filter and become zero. Then
I have a question on this one.
Yeah, go
ahead. Isn't it Prakriti that when a human being or a person in their 20s have that zeal of like, I want to do this, I want to achieve this, or I want to become a CEO. That's an Agni. That fuels the desire to achieve something in life and all those things. At that point, there is complete attachment. Like, I want to do this, I want to be this. That it's a self-fueling machine. Because of that thing, it fuels to get there. And in their 30s, they would have come to some level or whatever it is, that Agni starts coming down. And then it goes into a different direction where they look for satisfaction, in like overall job satisfaction, what I can be to the humanity. I mean, I'm sure the life has also, bogged you down with experiences and other things. And slowly that Agni comes down. And for some people, sattvic life comes up and somehow balances life. Isn't that is also Prakriti? Why should we not surrender to that also?
Yeah, with the Prakriti, if you actually go inquire about that, investigate about that. Like, if I were to just reflect on my own things, right? In my 10s or 20s, or when I had awareness in probably 14 or 15s, I was actually exposed to certain knowledge, whether it's right or wrong, we'll actually look at it. Basically, it's like, if you get into a good college and get into a good rank, and then, you will get a good job. And from there, you'll actually have a nice house. And, everything was actually said, right? You basically, like,
But the formula is not wrong. Formula is not wrong.
Actually, so that formula is wrong, and I equate this. My dad has always, said, new goals. If you actually get here,
No. Formula is not wrong in the sense that 1 + 1 is 2 at that point of time. Because if you do this, you will get a house, you will get a thing. That domino effect is correct. What you want, the choice is there. Like as you said just now, I'm going to indulge. I'm taking a full responsibility. That is okay. But isn't that also a Prakriti that you go into?
So that formula, whether it's right or wrong, is one of the things. Basically, there is a formula that basically said, right? There is a formula that is, we cannot debate it. Only when you get into the top 10 or 20, you will get a seat in a good thing, and so on and so forth. And only if you get there, and so on and so forth. But if you actually look at, I've actually looked at the life experience of some of the people that travel with me from college, both undergrad and masters and stuff. Particularly when I was the reason why I came to United States is because it was never in my course. It was never even in the realm of possibilities for my family, right? That formula was actually conditioned to about 45 people in my class of computer science. 45 people were conditioned that formula. You grade from here, you apply to the colleges in US, and then you get there. As the fate would have it, is that, and I got selected into one campus interview, and then we said, like, I never had any of this stuff. The interesting story here is, one time, my join date in Wipro in Bangalore got delayed, and then all my friends were going to Chennai, and my dad was like, looking at me, and then I was just, roaming around with no work, and he says, like, do something useful. So just to avoid him, and then I also wanted to go to Chennai when they are going for visa. And then just didn't want to go there with him. So then I had a cousin of mine. He was in a very silly University of Nebraska, Lincoln. I said, like, I'm going there. I just don't feel like, don't want to go. I feel very useless. Why don't you send me some I-20? He sent me this stuff. I didn't have any documents. We all went there. When I went there, most everybody that went with me, all the people that wanted to be in here, they all got rejected. The one dude that I went there, I got my visa. Okay, this is what Prakriti is. It's a quantum mechanics. So what we do is we actually think that Prakriti operates according to a very linear formula of few variables. But the Prakriti is actually it's a quantum mechanics. It's not even a multivariable calculus. Right? So from there, so then, in fact, you probably met this dude, Shailesh. Shailesh was, sometimes he comes to our yoga classes and all that stuff. And Shailesh and I were classmates, and the other person is Raju. We were the trio. Shailesh was so prepared, as this was the only outcome that he needed to get to. And his brother is here. He got rejected. And then he ended up doing my job in Wipro Bangalore. And then I came to US, and it's so interesting thing. For about 2 years, he could never accept that karma. Right? And if we were to go investigate all these things, there are so much of quantum mechanics that are set in motion, that all your conventional wisdom of the formulas of, if you do this, the only reason, not that I'm successful or this stuff, the reason why I'm actually teaching, not teaching, but sharing my Bhagavad Gita, it's just like, it's a lot of people cannot even fathom. If somebody had seen in about 10 years ago me, I just had dinner with my first boss, my boss who made me a VP in 2005. He was like, I still cannot see this in you. Right? So the thing is, the Prakriti, we believe that, we own the Prakriti and this stuff. But we can actually master the Prakriti. It's not by trying to command it through whatever the physical expression. The way you actually get command of the Prakriti is by samyama. Not through, I put a dam here. Like I read that, Chinese now built one of the biggest dam ever made in the history. They wanted to tame this nature of the biggest river. They poured so much concrete. It came in one of the articles where apparently even the earth rotation, the angle changed by point some degree. And feel like, we are in control. But only we know the Prakriti has so many of these things. So I don't know if I've made sense or not. The formulas of, whatever we think is the linear thing, which is, I could see from my own older daughter, right? She basically looked at all the things. She figured out every formula from how can she be a valedictorian, how she could do everything. She had a magic formula of how to get into Stanford, how to do everything. And she had these formulas. But the way she approached it, she did not know whether it's the 18 AP courses, this thing. She basically gave everything that she has. But then the Prakriti has other things. Stanford is not the only thing. Her health got messed up. Right? Her other things got messed up. And then, but to what end? Even her own priorities have changed, through these experiences. Initially, she wanted to become a cardiothoracic surgeon. I did not even know what a thoracic surgeon actually meant, because she thought that was a good way to make money. And then she got into Stanford, and then based on her life experiences, she wanted to investigate the brain and she wanted to become a neurologist. Then she went and spent time in UP and Gujarat, and she's like, okay, these women that go through gender-based violence in villages, women now need a better voice and better this thing. Now her latest, drama is like, she wants to pursue global policy, health, serving underprivileged women. This is like, there is no formula whether she's going to get there or not get there. And even getting into computer science was in her never wrong. But now she's working for Facebook. So this Prakriti is magic. But I think what being driven, I think for all my daughter has been my field of study. Actually, my field of study. It is like, I'm detached a little bit. Before, my worry was about like, her well-being. Now I basically is like shielded from that. I'm just being a sense of wonder. Because the moment I attach myself to her well-being, then it actually puts me in a thing. Now I avoid it. Everything is gonna from a prosperity mindset. I'm only sense of wonder how she's expressing and what is happening has been a field of study. So this
Yeah,
is an interesting.
Jayvrata, this sloka itself, it's a very bhari sloka actually. So, it is because akartaram sa pashyati. Right?
Yeah.
So Savitaji, I know I'm not answering your question, but the fun part is whether we agree or not, right? We execute what we like, and slowly, even if it is 1%, that we can understand that the unseen and the creator is behind, is the substratum for everything, changes the direction slowly. And it may be lives, months, it depends on the person's thick, deep vasanas, right? Basically. But it comes to a day where, in fact, Sriniji, actually, last time too, when we were discussing, I wanted to read that story. It's not even a story, actually, it's a fact of an Ayurvedic doctor. And in fact, you are in the Telegram group too. And probably we'll read it next time. Anyway, we have very less time.
Let's actually, in the next class, we will actually do it. So the three
Please go ahead.
things that we are trying, the three things that we are trying to do is, one is akartam sapashyati, which is like, the tadatmanam, that is the self, the purusha. Everything is a result of that source of energy. Everything is coming from that. But that is powering the entire universe. In just like the soul or the sun is the reason for this prakriti to exist. Now the prakriti is the real agent of action. Then there is a purusha. In between is, we as the bhautika, we are in this, situated between this, right? Now what we need to do is, we just need to work on ourselves so that we purify ourselves, so that the prakriti expresses itself through you consciously, so that it actually exhibits the purusha's qualities, the divine qualities. That is kind of this whole kind of stitching. Otherwise, when you act with the filter, the chitta vrittis, then you mask the purusha in all the qualities. Then the prakriti starts acting. You don't even know that the prakriti is acting through you based on the gunas and impressions and all that stuff. And then you have a sense of doership, and you're trying to control and steer and this, and you're like, ding 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 ding, all the drama. But the prakriti has the biggest, it's a quantum mechanics. You're doing a linear multivariable calculus, and then you don't really know. And then the only cop-out answer is, okay, that we don't know all this stuff. So then you basically like, it's a fate. Of course, it is a fate, because you basically don't have the skill to navigate this. So now we basically surrender. And then we do chantings, and then we do mantras. But the real example, when I was contemplating, this is something that I actually looked at, which is a great example of this, is, when this thing happened, right? The US Airways emergency landing, and Captain Sully. The Captain Sully, if you actually look at it, he conditioned himself with that inner peace. And he's one of the unforeseen situation where two engines got suddenly shut down in the thing. And then the only way where he was actually looking at it was like, and he basically said like, I'm gonna land. Where? And they said, come back to Newark. And he says, I don't have time. I'm gonna land on the Hudson River. And everybody was shocked. But the thing is, the way he conducted himself, that inner peace, the way he purified himself, and that really, the way he acted, inner peace, outer dynamism, he's not trying to take the entire big aeroplane and then trying to do, control the thing. No, he set himself like that yogi, the karma yogi, and was steering with that inner peace and outer dynamism, and that resulted in the right outcome. And again, he was not thinking about anything, but he did not have any charter. His Duskriti, his intuition, his training, and the way the samskaras that is built actually allowed him to steer for the right outcome to have happened. If you actually, some of the things, a lot of people think that there was just a magic, it's a miracle. And that is the right way this system works. The Prakriti has the full control of the agent of action, but we have the ability to steer in the direction by keeping ourselves very peaceful, and then your mind is in with no, he was not thinking about, am I going to die, or these people are going to die, nothing. He was like, at that moment, I don't think he was doing any math. He was just looking at whatever the variables that are there and then being in the present and then doing the best that he did. This is resonate. You know, I think this is one of the examples of the art of allowing.
Yeah, sorry, the pilot Sully is in his early 50s, right? When this happened, early 50s. I always wonder, like even for myself, right? Like I know myself. Savita at 20 is different from Savita at 40. So the optimal energy you have, like your daughter, you said, like she was able to stir through all the bad health and other thing because her body, mind was functioning at the optimal level at that point of time. Like 20 years, you know, you can screw up your health, everything, your body fights, it gets back to you. Like, you know, imagine her doing the same thing at 40 or 50. You're mentally and emotionally and physically, I'm sure some people can do it. I'm not saying rejecting. It just changes into what am I trying to say is that even in the innate nature, even within us, there is an external force nature. I think there is an internal nature just like that, which detaches slowly over time. If you allow it to happen, if you are conscious, if you are self-awareness, you come back to, you start recognizing the chitta which is more within you, because not everybody is Ramana Maharshi who realized that one thing happened and things changed, he realized. But most of us, we abuse in our 20s, and that feeds to wherever we need to go, control everything. Steering wheel, we are like as if it's a robot, we steer everywhere. But there is also inner nature within us as well, prakriti, inner prakriti as well, going through that shift. I don't know if I'm able to convince. So I always think, okay, at this age, Sully was able to make that clear-cut decision. What a 20-year-old Sully would do. That's my thing.
Actually, this is a very good thing, actually, because I think what we are seeing now, and this is the crisis, this is the pandemic that we are in. I could actually possibly make a statement that Sullys of our generation in the 40s and 50s, at the time, we had a better character foundations. Character foundations. We had, ability, we had a better social structure, ability to respect parents. And, there was like a lot of this, the core foundation of how we grew up was very different compared to the current generation of the kids, where they're born in the gadget generation. They were never in that, even in the 20s or this stuff, they're actually doing more, accumulating more gunas and the impressions and the vasanas in the 10s and 20s, even from the early ages, actually, the 2 and 5, they're gone with an iPhone. So when their ability to hurt themselves is far greater. When they come to the 50, they're almost like, they're zombies. My biggest worry is, I don't think, they go into a Sully, or it has nothing to do with the age. I think it's basically is like, the foundation on which you're being built is actually right now, there's education system and everything, because we all basically got signed up into, that's what's happening, right? Even in India now, everybody is like kind of formula. Start with kindergarten, this books and books and books. And if you're not in the number 1 and number 2, so it's like, it's okay. People definitely, even if this dude did a bad thing, it's just like, if the grade is number 1 and number 2, okay, just power on. Whereas when we were growing up, that foundation was not that. There was a lot more emphasis for character, there was a responsibility, the social values, there's a harmony. And I was reflecting this with some people here. In fact, my neighbor, we were engaged in the discussion, and there was a sense of national movement, like in the World War II or anything. Everybody would come together to actually go, let's go build roads, or let's go build factories, let everybody work. And so there was a uniting force. Everybody saw the well-being of themselves in the people around them, in the country. But now the notion of even country and the community is getting very distributed. Because in the United States, we could not even agree on whether to mask or not mask. And there is heavy polarization. So this polarization, and I get worried with my younger daughter. She has such a strong points of view. And she basically is like, she thinks whatever she is like is a communist. But the thing is, she doesn't even have enough data. And she's being influenced by social media. She thinks that she's represented, she has a good intention. And I was having dinner with one of my colleagues at work. And he basically says, like, his daughter, who is 12, on Instagram, she has 20,000 followers. 20,000 followers. And she probably doesn't even know who they are. Many of them, other than the 12 or 13, probably 50. But 20,000 followers. All she's doing is she puts, it's like a Truman Show. She's like, he went and looked at, some of those things, and her phone got messed up or something. And he's like, he had to go change something. And she was like, I had 20,000 followers. How could I not have my phone or whatever? And within, got a new phone. And then she again back to something like, 5,000 in no days. And then he was very curious to see what she was doing. And she's doing is very innocuous. Like, she was sharing with everybody what omelette she made and this stuff. But why is it that she has to display it to 20,000 people? Why are 20,000 people interested in her life, like a live TV show? And this is the fabric that we are on. And then the thing that you're saying in the 20s, everything is good, as long as your grades are number 1, number 2, number 3, and you get into some college, number this stuff. I've actually seen so many kids at Stanford. I used to go investigate. Not belittling or not being disrespectful. Some of them are like, confused about their own identity, the sexual identity, and this and this stuff. They're like, I need to know my identity because I explore. There is some element of respect that I give. Everybody has to represent themselves authentically. But why more and more people are getting confused? At the age of 21, 22, 23. And some people is like, maybe this is what it is, that is what it is. And the unfortunate thing is, we are also not realizing what is freedom, what is not freedom. And you can power yourself in arguing each and way. So it is like, so the net that I could see is like, the right foundation of this kind of a knowledge and the character building as a nation, as not just this nation, across the thing, we've actually de-emphasized. And we are only focusing on, when we looked at the YEC 3 core muscles, we are teaching more and more people on the technology, the think muscle, logical thinking, and then the execution muscle to actually get to where we need. And we have set up, the rules. But the real core foundation, the operating system
because
of self.
they see their parents. Because they see their parents, right? They have also set a formula. How many of them are Srini as parents, right? Like how like in the sense they have a different outlook or a different approach to life.
No, but
the
even
father,
for me, yeah, even for me, when they traveled with me, for 30 until I was like, 35 or 30 thing, the way I was operating, which is like, I did this and I was a VC. I was like, I did this partying, let's go to all this stuff, right? So, but now there is a different operating system. They themselves are confused right now. Which avatar of my dad is actually the good one, right? But over a long period, Satu Dirgha Kala Nairantara Satkara, the consistency and the trust, now they are slowly coming back. My older one kind of traveled with me a little bit. But after some time now, she's actually trying to figure out, because but anyway, I don't want to get into this stuff. So, but the thing is, this is really, really the genesis of, what I'm trying to establish, whether it's the right purpose or not. I somehow, based on my life experience, I said, like, okay, building a wholesome being of the right, think, execution, the character, and the right foundation is one of the biggest needs of our generation, and that we need to be over to our future generations, and we all need to collectively do it. And then, what is the right modality, right expression? We don't know. I know that you cannot go teach Bhagavad Gita or Yoga Sutra. We alienate them. We need to come up with the right ethos, pathos, and logos. And that's where frameworks like Mihaly, Flow, Ikigai, and this stuff. So where we just need to come and then connect to this kind of a thing. We don't know how that is going to do. All I know is the need, and then the outcome. The how is we are still experimenting. Right. So I'll quickly mention this sutram. Basically, it kind of puts everything in. It's more of a Sankhya kind of a definition, which is Bhagavan Krishna says, which is now explain this, what is real definition of karma, and how this all ties into Brahman, Atman, this kind of ties into the Vedanta philosophy. And what Bhagavan says, Aksharam Brahma Paramam, Swabhavo Dhyatam Uchyat, Swabhavo Dhyatam Uchyat, Swabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyat, Bhuta Bhavo Dvavakaro, Visargaha Karma Sanjitaha, Visargaha Karma Sanjitaha. Bhuta is the being, the beings, and then bhavo, the bhavo is the result. What the karma is nothing but the result of the Prakriti's actions. In other words, the true identity is Brahman and Atman. The Brahman and Atman. That from there, the bhuta and the bhava, the manifestations of the qualities and the gunas, the manifested Brahman is essentially results in this the results in the universe. This universe is nothing but the result of the qualities and the form, or the gunas of the karma. This karma is nothing but the Prakriti, is the manifested Brahman. Just like Bhuta, Bhava, Bhava, Udbhava, Karo Visargaha. From that Visargaha results in the Prakriti. So basically, karma is nothing but whatever we are seeing, this universe, whatever we see as a manifestation, that entire thing is the karma. And this manifestation of the Saguna Brahma is the Ishvara, or Prakriti. Prakriti is what is there. But once we transcend this gunas and the karma, and that's when we get united to that one Brahman or Atman, both microcosm and the macrocosm. So Brahman is the Satchit Ananda, Satchit Ananda. Sabhitagar, when you were saying, you were quoting Chitta, the Chitta is this. Chit is the Purusha. Chitta is the brain. Chitta, right? One is mind, the other one is the Brahman. Right? So then let me culminate into the last one, which is something that is very, very profound, and one of my favorite verses in the entire Bhagavad Gita. And how can we do the action and it integrates the four streams of yoga: Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Karma Yoga. So what Bhagavan Krishna said, Mai sarvani karmani sannyasat dhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. So what it actually says is like, Mai sarvani karmani. Whenever you are acting, doing any action, from cleaning the floors to saying, sharing this class or attending this class, offer this as the offering to the divine. These are nothing but the offering of the divine, offering to the divine, surrender to the divine, from whatever we label as mundane to the most valuable. Every action that we um, do just surrender as an expression or offering to the divine, as a prayer and offering to the thing. And people who have that, but at the same time, nirashar nirmamo is nothing about, which is like, is for you or mine, or nothing divided by the ahankara. So once we are established that in inner harmony and there is no sense of doership, just being allowing and just surrender to it. My sarvani karmani. And this is literally how we can achieve exuberance in every action. And when I started looking at this thing, that one shloka of doing the action, everything that we're doing as an offering and the prayer to the God, number one, it becomes a selfless action because you're only doing this then that puja is nothing but from the sense of fullness. Purate jayate iti puja. Not because of, again, goes back to that apuryamanyam achalam pravishyanti, like the ocean, sense of abundance and the prosperity mindness. So it is nothing for you. You're simply doing this in the service of the divine, and that service of the divine is in the service of others. Nothing for you. When you're doing that, you're also integrating bhakti. You're constantly, surrendering everything that we do, from the breath to every movement and every action that you do, as an offering to the thing. So you are completely engulfed in bhakti movement. And that actually gets directly mapped to Patanjali's definition of meditation. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. Well, you might be mopping the floor, or you might be giving a presentation, but you're doing that as a constant meditation or the devotion, surrender to the thing. So that means you're constantly, your mind is situated in the divine service or in the prayer to the God. So that fits into the tatra pratyaya. Everything is, you're seeing krishnarpanam or whatever the offering. So you're in the meditative state. So you're actually culminating in the constant state of meditation. So it's not about meditation means, you just stay in the one place and then you're trying to concentrate. No. You can actually be in the action of doing various things, but you're actually seeing the divine in every one of our actions. And that's how you're actually constantly in that meditative state. And that divine, then you're seeing that one. So this is one way of my sarvani karmani, is when we start cultivating the habit of every action, seeing the divinity, seeing that in the service of the others. So we actually culminate all actions and to be able to reach oneness. And this is what my guru in Telugu, Sirvendala Sitaram Shastri, wrote such a beautiful song, Andala Ravamidi Padamalata. This was my song in 2017 for 6 months. Every day when I was coming back from work, this was the only song that I used to listen to it. Every time I listen to it, it's a sense of exuberance. So I would encourage all of you to, number one, listen to this song and go seek oneness with the meaning. But even that meaning, you better listen to it from Sirvenala Guru himself. He basically says, even when you are actually go to a cinema movie or eating dosa or something, you can actually realize infinity. You can actually see the Paramavati, the Shivatvam or Krishnatvam in every task that you do, whatever the label that we ask it to, mundane or something grandiose or other stuff. And that is the secret of execution of
In fact, I was so happy to share with him that in the 10th standard, when I listened to this song, when it said "Ni kadalika chaitanyapu shrikaram kaga," so literally for at least 3 days, I did not know anything about Sanskritam. I did not know any philosophies. I don't know anything because I don't have that background, right, in my 10th standard. And once I listened to that word, for 3 days, it was very difficult for me to really move physically. In a sense, there was something very strongly questioning me that your movement turning into the consciousness itself. Nee kadalika chaitanyapu shrikaram, not in adi chaitanyam avadam kaadu. He's saying chaitanyapu shrikaram kaga, right? So when I shared with him, he was so happy. Anyway, with that,
I mean, the thing is, he even says like jangamam jadamam kaka, which is like, the jangam is that inert, the meditative, the Shiva Parvati, the two aspects. One is the Purusha and the Prakriti. So when you align your energies, like, when you establish an inner energy, and then when you do your action as an offering to the God, and it's like, Satudhirga Kala Nairantara Satkara Savito. So when you are actually doing that, pursuing that action with full devotion and with all like a flow state, and then from there, then even the Jangam, the Purusha feels like, wants to act like the dance. Then at the time, Parvatala Prasavinchana Prakriti Akriti Parvati Kaga, which is like, then all this, this Prakriti is going to manifest into the more harmonious and joyous, thing. And then that starts acting. And then Ni Kadalika Chaitanyam Srikaram Kaka. I think that Ni Kadalika Chaitanyam is from the other song, Shiva Puja Ku Chikarinchina. Right? It's in the other song. And then this one is, and then he actually gets into the second stanza, which is like, he explains Om Namah Shivaya, and this stuff. But I think, I strongly encourage all of you to just listen to that, the Sirvanal of expression. He literally says, Andala Ravamidi, Padamalada, Ambaramantina Hrudayamida. So when you are actually performing an action like the Maisarvani Karmani, and with all the things that we covered in the Karma Yoga, that's when the joy reaches the infinity, and that we can seek in every action that we can do. That's the potential. We can seek the infinity, the ultimate exuberance in every action that we do, and for that we just need to be in the flow state. And then I quickly cover this. We have some time, maybe we can actually cover this, or I'm sure all of you can actually read it. This is the Japanese concept of Ikigai, and it basically looks like this: what are the motivations and why people do certain things. And then there is one is, if you look at the construct of what the world needs, and then what you love to do, what you're skilled at, and then what you're getting paid for. There are these 4 spheres. And then the key thing is, the real thing is to achieve Ikigai. Ikigai. So where whatever you are actually making as your vritti, pravritti, and all that stuff, when it is something what you love and care about, your passion, and for that you have the right skills, like in the flow state. And if you're also getting compensated with the right means, right, only jestful means that you need, that makes is there. And then that needs to be something in the service of others, something in the service of others for the well-being. When you achieve this perfect optimum, that's when Ikigai, this Japanese concept for the reason for being, our existence, and that is a purpose-centric living. And then sometimes, if you actually look at it, sometimes we do fame-centric living. We are even driven by, how people look at us as validation or money. There are different people, they can choose, different modes of living. But, the Ikigai is like a purpose-centric living. So but this one, how do we steer ourselves into the Ikigai? We cannot go create a new profession, a new task, that is perfectly aligned with what you live and stuff, right? With the state of being that you have, you can actually create a flow state, and you can also create an Ikigai. And that is the secret of success. And that is what we can actually realize through our Abhyasa Vairagya. And that's where this character building yoga and all these things will help us to realize Ikigai, flow, samyama, and ultimately realize the oneness within our being and within all around us. So that concludes our Karma Yoga, and I share the learnings that I had from Sriramji and for many of you, and from my study. This is my interpretation.
Thank you. Thank you for putting all this together. I'm sure it's hours and hours of work, and looking the research itself. I'm sure has taken a lot of time. So, but thank you for creating this wonderful series. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. And actually, while I was doing it, while I'm sharing this with you, what I learned, or when I'm doing it, I enjoy the process. And I'm actually, I want to express my gratitude to all of you for giving me this platform and the opportunity so that I can actually experience the joy in doing this. So with that, let's chant Om 3 times and let's wrap up the session. Take a deep breath. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The forms generate the fire and love of knowledge. Cup your eyes. Transmit this divine knowledge. Slowly and gently, right smile, open your eyes. Thank you all. Enjoy the weekend, what is left of the weekend, and then we'll meet again next week. Thank you.